and I know I said I have my own thoughts about it, so I can start us off that way if you want. I kind of think that it's definitely maybe something that starts at this age. Maybe this was her first experience thinking, having that need to evolve as a person, and I think that it maybe starts there and continues forever.
The story you were telling down in the lobby fits perfectly with that.
Yeah.
With your own sibling.
Yes, trying to find my own. For me, it was trying to find my own place. I have an older sister, and I always felt like everything that I did was seeing how I was like her, how I was different than her, and I always wanted to be different and stand out, separate from the rest of my family, so then it would be more like I was my own person.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking more about that, I think at that age, I think all kids are just trying to find who they are
Identity.
and their own identity. And I think maybe in her family, with her other siblings, she talked about in the book, fighting over whose turn it was to watch television or whose turn it was to do the dishes, and everything was the same. And I think just in the monotony of everything the same, it's like she was just one more Kincaid child. It
Well, and
wasn't,
she
wasn't
always
distinguished.
was identifying herself as the oldest sibling. She mentioned that several times.
And
that was her role, no more, no less, basically.
Yeah.
And she wanted to find a different role that was
Yeah, she
something
even
that was her
said
that
that
was
at one
different
point.
from everything else. But I think all people, I think it starts in youth and maybe you feel it more then, but I think everybody wants to feel like that as they become a person, they have, some contribution.
Right.
Like she's really trying to solve, I don't think it was so much just figuring out who Angel was, but she wanted to be the one to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think if it had been known that yes, it was definitely Michelangelo, if there was no mystery to where it was, I don't think the sculpture would have been as beautiful to her. I don't think she would have been as interested in it. It was more of solving the mystery and feeling like it was something that she did.
That she
and
contributed
so that's,
to.
Right, so that's part of making her who she is what she does herself, not just being told something, but doing it herself. And I think everybody, wants to make some sort of contribution or feel like, when I'm grown, dead, gone, whatever, when I'm remembered, I want to be remembered that I did this, or this is the person I was, not that I'm just a nameless, faceless person.
There needs to be something dynamic
Yes.
about it, some movement, some train, of thought or of action, rather than just the static notion of, on paper, on print, here's who I am.
Right.
It reminds me of, I think about high school, and I guess it's at different times for different people, but like sometimes in high school everybody's competing and they're like, who's going to be the best at this? And at a certain point a lot of kids are just like, I'm not going to be the valedictorian, so I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to be the person that wears weird clothes, or I'm going to be...
And it takes that sort of maturity to get there, because you don't see that really with Jamie.
No.
And boys and girls mature at different rates anyway, but you don't really see that with Jamie. Jamie is cool with who he is. He's cool with life. He wants to go on this adventure because he thinks it'd be awesome, but I don't think that he really is like, I want to be different. I need to find my identity, like Claudia is.
No, he's still fresh into his role. I mean, he's not questioning himself. He's just displaying his strengths.
He knows that he likes complications. And
and he likes
so
figuring
cute.
things out. I loved
him.
But it's like she just has reached this point of that realization. Like she's just become mature enough to have that realization that you were describing, which is, wanting to make your mark and realizing that she wants that as a human being. And maybe that's what makes her get this idea, to leave.
And then having Jamie be someone who pushes her buttons and aggravates her, but also compliments her, and so helps her to feel reassured that she, I think, feels about herself. Like, she knows she's a good planner, but then when he says, Claude, you're genius, or something like that, it's like those moments where she says to herself, I am. It gives her that next little boost to become more mature and more settled with and okay with who she is.
Yeah.
And also how it describes her as being beautiful somewhere in the book. If it's in the, I don't think it's in the newspaper clippings, but she's referred to as being beautiful, but then she doesn't quite see herself as that until towards the end of the book, where she's really looking into her eyes in the bathroom at Miss Frank Weiler's house, or you can kind of see her blossom.
Yes,
throughout
yes,
the book.
it's like a maturity, like a coming of age story almost.
I think having her brother along makes it not just an inner thing anymore. All of a sudden, she has to try to accomplish her goals, and somebody else has to help her.
And she's realizing
Pulls it out.
herself through him. Like through when he says, "Oh, you're genius," or whatever. She's realizing more who she is through him. So
Very sweet. What was the question about the brother and the sister in there? Did we?
yes, that's the very next one. The sibling dynamic between Claudia and Jamie seems so typical of that between an older sister and a younger brother. It reminds me of my younger brother because we fight a lot, and we actually have the same age difference as the two of them. We fight a lot, and we fought a lot as kids. But at the end of the day, I think he still looks up to me, and we're both willing to sort of follow the other's lead. He was the plant operator in the show. He was the puppet.
I saw the name or heard the
Yes.
name.
So we're doing this play together, and we've done them together as adults. You know, we did them as kids too, but it's so different doing it as adults because we're both willing to sort of follow each other's lead, you know, and kind of have the same friends now. And it's weird, but it's good. And so my question was, how do you think that sibling dynamic between Claudia and Jamie's personalities mix throughout this adventure? Especially the decision making for their plan of action, because it even says in here that they both bring a different dynamic. Like he's the frugal one, he's the one who wants to save the money, and she's the one who
Plans everything out.
right, who has the good ideas, and you know. So I just wanted to ask what you thought about
Well,
that.
if I could hear I made like a newspaper clipping with them as them missing, and my two little blogs next to it speak to that.
Okay. Yeah.
It says, Claudia Kincaid is the oldest of four. She is 12 years old and has 3 younger brothers. Details never escape Claudia. She loves planning, all things beautiful and good clean smells. She's cautious, not with her money, and poor. She has been a victim of injustice for quite some time. And then James Kincaid is 9 years old and in the 4th grade. He has brown hair and brown eyes. James is Claudia's second youngest brother of 3. He is adventurous, not with his money, and rich. And some have even called him a cheapskate. And I love that because that's early on when you get those 2 lines about them being opposite of each other, which is why she chose him. It says that explicitly, but also just why their characters do collaborate and blend so well throughout. You know, she's the idea person, he's the
Practicality person.
Yes, exactly.
I thought
You
about
know?
that just in her choosing him. It just shows how much she was with the planning, because
Yeah,
she
it
knew
goes to that.
she knew she needed the money, and she knew he would save it. But she also knew that that was her weakness. If she went on her own, even if he'd given her all of his money and she went on her own, she would have spent it all on the cab fare just to get to the museum.
Right.
Which shows the insight of her character in the very beginning. Which
Yes.
was like maybe the first step in showing us that she was in a process of maturing.
Right, because she was almost unwilling, in the very beginning, she was almost unwilling to give up those Sundays or whatever it was that she bought every week for 10 cents. And she was like, well, okay, if I don't have one every week, if I just have one every other week, then I can
That's
save,
right.
you know.
Okay.
And she was almost not willing to do that, whereas like, you know, and she's so surprised at the end of the book when she decides to take the cab, and they go, and then Jamie like gives the rest of the money as a tip, and she's like, why did you do that? You know, and he's like, it was like 15 cents.
Right.
Yeah.
We're done with our money, you know. I think they complement each other very well. And I agree. I think there's definitely a reason why she chose him and why he was so willing to go along.
And up to the end, they're having those brother-sister moments where he divulges the information to Miss Frankweiler. And you can just feel him, you just felt for him when she comes in out of her bath and or maybe it was, I don't know, while they're eating, and, you know, the conversation goes on and the reader now knows that Miss Frankweiler knows, but Claudia does not know.
Right.
And that's building, and you just feel for poor Jamie, who is still, that shows his age still.
Yes,
He still
yes,
can't
yes.
hold the secret, even though he's been so secretive for a week without, you know, foible, and then all of a sudden, you know, he reveals that and gives up. And she's so, you know, on him when she finds out. She's like, how could you? And,
Right.
you know, he still gets,
Yeah,
that's why his
he's so
character is so
sweet.
light, and,
Yes, and when she says, when Mrs.